It's Heather Smith here, and today I'm sharing with you a recording of a keynote entitled Developing and Keeping a Competitive Advantage, a talk given by Philip Fierlinger, co-founder of Upstock and co-founder of Xero. This is the third podcast I'm bringing you from the 2024 Tropical Innovation Festival that is held in June in Cairns in the beautiful far north Queensland. I encourage you, if you're interested in the topic or the vibe of the event, to go back and listen to the other two episodes and reach out to the Tropical Innovation Festival if you want to be part of future festivals. I shall drop their contact details in the show notes below, as well as Philip's and Upstock's. This audio was recorded during a lunchtime session, and at the start you can hear the MC of the event, who is also the conference co-organiser, Tara Diversi. Before I hand you over, I'd like to remind you you are listening to the Accounting Apps podcast, exploring accounting and business apps community. I'd like to encourage you to hit subscribe right now and stay up to date with the curated content I'm sharing by signing up to the Accounting Apps newsletter, available at accountingapps.io, and joining the Accounting Apps Mastermind group.
So I'm very excited I would be lying if I said I usually practiced last names before I invited people up. We used to just call you Phil, co-founder of Upstock and Xero. Now we're like Phil the American, co-founder and Upstock and Xero. So please welcome Phil Fierlinger. Fierlinger. Oh,
Fierlinger.
Fire and fear. What are we more fearful of, fire or fear?
Yeah.
Fierlinger, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate you being in a dark room on a beautiful day like this and taking the time. And I'm thrilled to be here. It's such a cool event, and I'm really grateful for the invite. So thank you. I was asked to talk about developing and keeping a competitive advantage, and I'd love to share my experiences and things I've learned along the way. And gaining a competitive advantage really means that you need to do something extraordinary. And I've been really, really lucky to work on some extraordinary products over my career. So I started out as an intern at a company called General Magic that was building the first smartphone in 1992. And there's an amazing documentary film called General Magic the Movie. And so I definitely recommend you seeing that. And it didn't end well, as you can imagine, because you've never heard of General Magic. But it is described as the most important startup nobody's ever heard of. And then I founded a company, and the first product I did was with the Beastie Boys, and yeah, there is exactly. I'm not about to bust into rhyme right now, so. So actually I put the link, skyrise.com is a link where you can see a bunch of those products and projects, full case studies and all that, including Xero. So then I was one of the co-founders of Xero, and now currently I'm co-founder of Upstock. And people, when you think about a competitive advantage in our industry in particular, you think about technology is the ultimate competitive advantage. And yes, new technology is definitely extraordinary, but particularly in software, it's extremely easy to copy. So your advantage doesn't last very long. And think about this. So the light bulb. This is an incredible technology, but the experience around it, I push a button and the light comes on, right? This is magic. I don't need to know anything about the technology. I don't need to know how filaments work, how vacuums work, how the electric grid works. I literally just push a button, magic, a light comes on. And that's really the important part, is actually making the technology invisible. Because nobody really wants technology. They actually want magic. There we go. Technology is pretty shit. Technology is complicated. It makes people's lives kind of miserable. It's stressful to deal with technology. If you're looking at the coal face of technology, it's really, really frustrating and requires expertise. Exactly. Thank you. So how do you turn technology into a magic experience? It's by design, user experience design, to be specific. And everyone here thinks that they're in the technology business, but you're actually in the user experience business, whether you realize it or not. So let's have a little fun. I want to play a word game with you. So in your head right now, what are the words that you associate when you see the word accounting? What words come to your mind?
Excel. Xero.
I said in your head, but okay, cool. Yeah, so some people said Excel and Xero and all that, but then I also heard a couple other things, and this is what we'd hear all the time when we were starting out with Xero. And did anyone have these words in their mind? Yeah, cool. And so just think about this. We've just started this company, and this is people's feeling about the product that we're about to try to sell them. This is something that they describe and feel is very stressful, boring, tedious, painful, and that's a daunting problem. But in my mind, it was actually an incredible opportunity. What if we could flip it? What if, when I asked that question, the things that you thought about were sexy, fun, addictive? That would be absolutely game-changing, right? That would be extraordinary. And what if, it would mean that we're transforming pain into pleasure. What if we could do that? That would be really magic. And so that was my pipe dream when we started Xero, that we could flip this perception of accounting. And to my astonishment and delight, very soon after launching, this is exactly so Twitter launched at pretty much the same time we did, and so all of a sudden people were sharing their feelings about everything, including everything you can imagine, and we were one of those things, and it was really great to get this unsolicited feedback. And so this is what people were using those exact words were what people were using to describe Xero, and that's utterly was really shocking. It was like one thing to want it to happen, but then another thing for it to actually happen. So when we started Xero, when I started designing it, a pain point that came up in my research and in my design work was it became a major focus, and this sums it up really well, that I'd rather face root canal surgery than do a bank reconciliation. And again, so people would rather have dental surgery than do accounting. And this is a deadly problem for any business, every business. Every business lives or dies on cash flow. And without doing a bank reconciliation, until you do a bank reconciliation, you're flying completely blind. You have no idea what your cash flow is. And so people hate doing a bank rec. And so they don't do it. It's only at the end of the year when their accountant says, all right, you're about to go to jail, so you might want to do your bank rec now. And that's under duress is when they do it. When it's too late and it's really not useful and not meaningful. So it quickly became clear to me that cash flow was a fundamental problem that we needed to solve. And so this is the same person who said they'd rather have root canal surgery than do a bank rec. They said Xero actually makes bank rec fun. It has a game-like quality, and I'm disappointed when it's done. That is extraordinary, right? That is the definition of extraordinary. And so we did it. And it's absolutely incredible. And so we transformed this massive pain point into pleasure. And so at the click of a button, magic, just like that light bulb, your cash flow is done. You just click a button and you have your cash flow in real time. And this was our killer feature, and it still is. And so think about the economic impact of this, that suddenly small businesses can see their cash flow in real time. It's absolutely transformational, and it transformed small businesses, and it transformed the accounting industry. And if you want a really fun backstory about the bank reconciliation design and the solution and why it's fun and all that, I did an interview with Heather Smith. And so there's a podcast that goes into the detail of all the kind of the thinking and how we made that work. So really fun. It was great. And Heather was an early adopter of Xero, so very grateful for that too. So a killer feature is definitely an awesome competitive advantage, but it's not essential. So there's plenty of wildly successful businesses that do not have a killer feature, like Atlassian, Zendesk, HubSpot, Zoho, Asana, just to name a few. So they all, don't get me wrong, they all have points of difference, but none of them has a single killer feature. Am I on the right slide? Yeah. And a killer feature is great, but it's not enough. Your product and your business need to be backed up by a vision that runs through everything that you do. So cash flow was core to our vision. Making accounting sexy and fun was core to our vision. So, which came into our product and our marketing and, resulted in our tagline, beautiful business. That when you see an accounting software called Beautiful Business or, referred to as Beautiful Business, that really stands out. That's kind of remarkable and extraordinary. And then collaboration between accountants and small businesses was core to our vision. The list goes on. So don't get seduced into thinking that, you just get a killer feature and you're, that's all you need to do. There are no silver bullets here. And so you still need a great vision, you need a great team, you need a great product, you need a great brand, and you need great timing. And so for Xero, user experience was our primary competitive advantage. And it still remains. It's an enduring competitive advantage. So after I left Xero, I took some time off and didn't think I was going to do another startup, go all in and, get completely obsessed and have my life taken over in that way. But a friend came to me, and so I was doing investing in some advisory work with various startups and really enjoying that. And a friend came to me, and he owns Fox and Fizz, which is this iconic New Zealand soft drink brand. And he's like, "Oh, I want to get some startup advice from you." And I was like, "Okay, I'm a software guy." And he said, "No, don't worry, this is software." And so he explained to me this nightmare problem that he has with his wholesale business, where he gets phone calls in the middle of the night, he gets texts in the middle of the night, and people placing orders, and so he doesn't remember to write them down, or they come in garbled, so there's a voicemail and he can't understand what they're saying, and he makes some assumptions, so he's either missing orders, getting the orders wrong, and it's an expensive waste for him, and a stressful waste, and then it causes all kinds of friction in his trading relationships. And so he hired a developer to create some software to help him fix this problem. It transformed his business, and then all of a sudden his customers were saying, "Hey, we'd be really interested in using that as well." And that's when he came to me, and he's like, "I think I'm onto something. Like this is getting some real interest here." And my first reaction was, this sounds a lot like e-commerce to me. And e-commerce is a very, very pervasive technology, pervasive solution. It's ubiquitous everywhere. So you just haven't found the right solution. I'll Google a few things and I'll set you on your way. And I was really, really shocked when I found out that, yes, B2C is absolutely, a solved problem. E-commerce is a solved problem in that space, but not B2B. This is what B2B looks like. It's these day planners where you handwrite your orders and then you transfer that to a spreadsheet and then you put that in your accounting or your inventory system, and you're making, keying errors every single step of the way, and you're dropping orders. Everything is very, very fragile, and none of it's traceable, and it's hugely time consuming. So think about all that friction and waste that's involved with that. Friction in your team, friction with your customers, friction in the entire supply chain globally. Think about that, how much waste that is causing. And so that's why we created Upstock, is to remove the friction and waste from the global supply chain. And Upstock is a B2B marketplace e-commerce platform for food service. So it connects buyers and suppliers in a new channel to market, and it is part of a logistics and finance platform in your pocket. And again, that is extraordinary. If you can do that, that is really, really extraordinary. And it levels the playing fields with the huge conglomerate multinationals, the Coca-Colas of the world, the Lion Nathans of the world, who have dumped tens of millions of dollars into these heinous ERP systems, but it gives them an advantage. They have a supply chain logistics solution that's digital. And so instead of a small supplier spending millions of dollars that they don't have on a heinous ERP system, we've given the entire industry of suppliers a solution, a networked solution. And so that any supplier of any size, so that an artisanal emerging brand or a multinational can be on our platform, and they can automate their wholesale operations from their pocket. Again, extraordinary. And the impact has been extraordinary. So this is Jordan Rundell. Some of you may have heard of her. She is the founder of The Caker. She's a celebrity chef and a world-famous model. And thanks to Upstock, she enjoys doing wholesale logistics. And think about that. A world-famous model who enjoys doing logistics. I don't know if that's ever been achieved before, and it seems pretty remarkable and pretty extraordinary to me. And again, we've transformed pain into pleasure, that she actually enjoys doing it. On the other hand, here's the wrong kind of extraordinary. This is what people are saying about our key competitor here in Australia, and I've hidden their name because it's just too cruel to name and shame them. And there is no pleasure here. This is all pain. They're adding more waste and friction into the world. And to me, it's absolutely heartbreaking and awful to see this happening. So it turns out listening to customers is extraordinary. That's an extraordinary thing. Everyone talks about it, not so many people do it. And it's a huge competitive advantage. So these are brands that chose Upstock because we listened to them. We've removed friction and waste from their operations. And even more extraordinary, Upstock has increased their sales. So we've increased their sales with existing customers, and we've increased their acquisition of new customers. And so in this really, really challenging economy, that's absolutely incredible. And these are businesses that desperately need to reduce costs, so aka remove friction and waste. But for them to also see, this incredible growth is really, really remarkable. So our philosophy at Upstock is that our customers' success leads to our success, but their success comes first. And we're making our customers very successful. So thanks to their success, we're growing exponentially and achieving that exponential growth consistently, repeatedly, predictably. It's rather extraordinary. And none of that success is by accident. It starts with a simply extraordinary idea: to remove friction and waste from the global supply chain. Start with something big and try to change the world. And this is how we achieve that. These are our guiding principles, and this is one of the first things that I worked on when we founded Upstock. And it's our vision and our combination of our mission and our guiding principles. These form a competitive advantage. These attract amazing talent. Nobody has left our business. One person did resign and briefly was at another company, but she came back because of our vision and our values. So everyone, we retained all of our team, and everyone describes it as the best, most fulfilling work experience of their lives. And that's extraordinary, and that is a real competitive advantage. So with Upstock, we have a long list of advantages. Some of these are unfair and unique to us, like that we founded Xero. Some may not seem so special, that we're a remote team, for instance, or that we're from New Zealand, but we leverage those things in really unique ways. And ultimately, it's the fundamentals. It's your vision, your values, your culture that defines your business. And I mean that on an architectural level. So our product and our business are architecturally structured in a unique way thanks to our vision and values. So if we look back at Xero, at the bank rec solution, that's a game-changing idea that was founded on our vision. Competitors tried to copy it, so and they failed. So MYOB created a almost pixel for pixel mimicry of our solution. But their architecture just didn't enable it to work the way ours did. So I don't know if you know the term cargo cults. In P&G, they created, when the U.S. forces left in World War II, they created their own air force out of bamboo. And they expected that it would bring in all this cargo from overseas. They'll build an air tower and they'll build airplanes, and that will bring in all these amazing magic goods. Obviously, that didn't happen, and that's exactly what MYOB did. They built a bamboo version of our bank reconciliation, and it completely flopped. And so, that bank rec is still the killer feature, and even though conceptually it seems really easy to copy, it actually isn't. Again, because of that, the way it's built into the DNA, built into the fabric, architected. We also had QuickBooks. There's a whole story I could tell you about separately, but a guy from QuickBooks came to us wanting a job. I was like, no thanks, you're not a fit. And he was like, no, you want me to come tell you what I know. And I was like, okay, that sounds interesting, come in. And he explained how he did the upshot of the story is that he figured out that bank rec is our killer feature. He told management to build it. They went to their team, and there's one guy inside Intuit who is the mastermind, has been there from the beginning, and runs their bank platform. And he said, we can't do it. We don't have the architecture to do that. Like, it's a great idea, but we just can't build it. So this is how these things get baked in. It's from that vision that you have, and that the values and the culture that you build around it. So it turns out doing the fundamentals and executing well is actually really, really extraordinary, and it leads to powerful and unique advantages. So what you're looking at here is the inflection point of revenue after we launched a key feature in Upstock. So it turns out we do have a killer feature with Upstock, and it's been absolutely game-changing for our customers, and it's been a moat for our business. And it was our vision that led us to this solution. And it allowed us to see this opportunity that nobody else in the world sees. So I track nearly 300 competitors globally, and I mean from Pakistan to South America and everywhere in between, and all shapes and sizes. Nobody's doing this. And the technology is not unique. In fact, the technology is perversely ancient. But the user experience is the thing that's absolutely new and extraordinary. And it means that through a click of a button, you can get your logistics done like magic. And so what was hours of torture to deal with your logistics is now done in seconds. Again, we've turned pain into pleasure. And so I'll leave you with this thought. Supermodels enjoying logistics. So on that note, I'll wrap up. I think we might have some time for questions. Otherwise...
Does it work as an add-on into Xero?
Yes.
So
Yes, we're integrated into Xero and into MyOb and QuickBooks. And funny enough, the integration into Xero is beautiful, and I'm very, very proud of that. And the integration into the other platforms is much more challenging. And then we're also integrated into inventory systems, and we're now working on integrations into ERP systems.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Yeah, Heather?
How do you cultivate kindness in a business without staff taking advantage of you?
So the question was, how do we cultivate kindness without people taking advantage of it? My kind of gut instinct is I don't mind, and I trust people that they're not going to take advantage of it. And if we look after them, then it will pay dividends. And so the way that we manifest that is just recognizing. So Duncan and I, my co-founder Duncan Ritchie, we worked together for many years at Xero, collaborated very closely, and we both got out of there pretty fucking shattered. We were, it was PTSD, all that. And so we were like, when we started this, we were very intentional that we want to avoid that kind of insane kind of stress. And one of the ways that we have manifested that with this business, there's a whole bunch of things, but actually being a remote business is one of those ways that we've approached it, and that we recognize and acknowledge, and we really communicate this to our team, that there's a lot of twists and turns. Don't get bent out of shape about things are going to be, it's fast moving, things are going to be changing. What you thought you were doing yesterday is not what you're going to be doing tomorrow or today. And and that we will support you through that. And so we do coaching and counseling. So, Duncan and I were co-CEOs, and so we hit this patch where there was a bit of friction in our relationship, and so we brought in a coach to work with us. So it was basically marriage counseling. And it was completely transformative. And so we've done that with our team as well. If our team are struggling with something, then we'll hire coaches, we'll hire counselors, and it's again been really transformative. So there was one of our engineers was really struggling both personally, and then that was resulting in struggles at work. And we did counseling and a few other things that helped them out. So. And they've completely turned around and become an incredible, doing incredible work on the team.
We have a few people, we have quite a few founders here, but we have a few people who are just at that very starting position. If you were to start Xero again, so I understand that you're with Upstock. If you're at that stage with Upstock, what are some of the things that you've taken from that knowledge of being very early to now being very early, but with a different mindset?
Yeah, so working on the values was the very first thing I did. And so there's something that I did when I was working with startups that I was investing in or in advising, and I would say to them, they just founded, and I was like, first thing you do is come up with your values. And they were like, that's for big corporates. What are you talking about? Like, that's the thing you put on the wall to brainwash people. And I said, no. And we did it way too late at Xero. So we were scaling from 600 people to 1,200 people. And you want a way for people to understand the culture, understand, what's valued within the business and how kind of we behave. But it's not just that. As a founder, it's actually the operating system for your business. This is the dream you want to build, and this is the culture that you want to build. And so what is it? Like you've got this amazing blank canvas, you can do whatever you want to do. What would you do? How would you do this? And so you start from that, and and the reason it's so important, especially again at that early stage, is that it helps you shortcut decisions, and particularly when you're in a crisis, and you will be in more than a few crises. And so all of a sudden you can fall back. Hey, these are our guiding principles. And so, by the way, those aren't our complete guiding principles. So I came up with like 20, and we just had to distill it down to like the 6 most important. But it was actually through working with one of the startups that I was advising that that it really set them on a completely different course by doing this, by going through that process and recognizing like, I get to decide what kind of business I'm building. And then the place that it really comes into, where the rubber hits the road is when you're hiring, when you're firing, when you're taking on investors. So, we had this opportunity to take on an investor that would have been really, really crucial for us. They had a big check, and we decided, no, they do not align with us and, with our values, and we're not going to do that.
And how did you give them that feedback?
We, basically disengaged. We didn't, it was just like...
Checking my email went through. Roy?
Hey, Phil. Roy from Reggie Health. This really resonated with me. Medical documentation sucks, it's boring, and so I'm trying to make it sexy and fun again. What was the process? So like accountants and maybe healthcare workers or doctors could be very similar.
Yep.
What was the process of your go-to-market?
Who's calling you boring, Heather?
What was the go-to-market strategy for accountants? How did you attack SMBs? How did you think about on-prem versus cloud and then transition? Did you have to work through that? How much was sales-led? How much was product-led?
Yeah, there's an MBA I could give you, right? Like a 3-month, 3-month course. So like, what was, how did we actually penetrate accountants? How do we penetrate that market, those types of customers, and then grow it? And what was our go-to-market strategy around that? Is that a good summation? So, let me take you back almost 20 years when we founded Xero in 2006. So there was no, it was all on-prem. The cloud was this scary, scary, looming, it's like AI now, like, the cloud, ugh. And people would be like, I'm not putting my, accounts in the cloud. And it's like, you use online banking, right? Okay, cool. So that's your actual money. This is just information about your money. So your money is already in the cloud. So, and just had to kind of go through that training education process. And so education was a huge part of what we were doing. We had a sales, and it took a long time to actually figure it out. One of the things, the idea of collaboration was really central to our thesis, to our philosophy. And plug your ears, Heather. So accountants are pretty rigid in their thinking, we found. And unlike doctors. Yeah. And so they, first of all, they're like, we're not touching this. You guys are crazy. I've got MYB. It's I don't know why you're doing this. And then, but you do find the one or two that are just like, oh yeah, please, this is what I'm working with is hell, and I'd love to. And you get them on board, and so this is every company I've started starts with user research, and that user research is actually early sales.
So find your Heather.
Yeah.
So Heather is very different to most accountants, but find your Heather of medical doctors.
Yeah, and so you're finding those outliers that really get it, and then all of a sudden you're working closely with them, and they are the beacon that leads to the change that you're going to bring to the world, and they'll give you the feedback, and they will be the translator to like, okay, accountants, won't, here's why the sham of accounting. First of all, like this is something that was a shocker when I was doing that early research, is like accountants just make numbers up out of thin air. Like the numbers don't look good, and I'm just going to, put this number here and that number here. And I was like, no. And so, you know, getting those early adopters, and it's through that user research. So you're not selling them, you're learning from them. So you're in this co-design process where, you know, we're working together, you're helping guide what we're doing. And then as you start getting traction, start getting momentum. First of all, they're your early adopters, and they're, you know, raving lunatics and just telling everyone, including their mother and their aunts and uncles and anyone at a barbecue about what you're doing. And again, those are all great signs and validation that you're on the right track. And then, you know, the reality is that you put out a lot of fishing lines, right? And you know, some of them, you know, you think are going to be this is the game changer, and this is going to absolutely blow it all up, and we'll be to the moon. And it turns out, you know, that didn't, or maybe not now. The timing is not right for that now. Like, yes, one day you will discover that actually is a huge transformative solution, but it's too early in the journey for that. And so you're putting out all these, and you're just, where am I getting a nibble? Oh, I'm getting a nibble, and so you start following that. And really diving deeper and growing and expanding on those things that people are really are gravitating to. And so I had this one really pivotal moment when we were doing Xero, and I was really, you know, like I was feeling like what we're doing is really, really remarkable and transforming it, but it, you know, we got lauded in the press and we got bashed by the press, that whole thing. So like they put you on a pedestal and then they, you know, love to knock you down. And so we're in one of those, they're knocking us down points. And I was walking in the woods with my family, and I overheard a conversation in front of me, and this guy was just going nuts about Xero, and he was recruiting some guy on their walk in the woods about using this accounting software called Xero. And I was like, yeah, I think we've hit something here. We've hit a vein. And so, you know, then, you know, how do you scale that? How do you amplify that? And so amplifying the voice of the customer was absolutely, like, nobody, we got feedback. One of this kind of, again, another turning point. Somebody called Xero like riding a unicorn over a rainbow across the universe. And I was like, if we said that about Xero, nobody would believe, you know, that would be the most absurd, stupid thing. But our customer said that, and so we were amplifying. This is what people are saying about Xero. And again, so they're, you know, you're promoting them, you're building their profile, and it is a, you know, a bit of a flywheel. And then for us, and I'll, you know, I said this was going to be an MBA, so if anyone has any burning questions, jump
9
in.
o'clock tomorrow morning.
Yeah. You know, a pivotal point was, as I mentioned earlier, the collaboration between accountants and their businesses that they were advising. And so no accountant wanted to come near us when we started out. Partly because, you know, they were threatened, it was scary, and so there was a handful of early adopters, but we couldn't get to accountants. And so we got to the early adopters in businesses, and they said, I'm finding a new accountant. If you don't work with me on Xero, I'm getting a new accountant. And all of a sudden, the accountants are like, what is this? Do I have to, oh, God. And then all of a sudden, as you get this, the momentum, all the things start shifting, and you get to this tipping point, and then all of a sudden we are using the accountants because they have access to hundreds of clients and thousands of clients. So all of a sudden, once you've built up that trust and built up that channel, then all of a sudden we turned it into a channel.
Fantastic.
So hopefully that was helpful. Yeah.
Was that helpful to many people? I feel like you just have given us a little bit of an MBA. I could sit here and listen to you. I'm so glad that we got to pluck you out of New Zealand for a little while.
Thanks for inviting me. Yes, I'm thrilled.
Yes, and big thank you to Heather for putting us on the track and introducing us. If you had gotten some value out of that session, please join me in giving a standing ovation to Phil Fierlinger. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. If you like this episode, please subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and share with someone who you think might benefit from the episode. Keep up to date with the modern accounting technology landscape by subscribing to the Accounting Apps podcast, the Accounting Apps newsletter at accountingapps.io, and join the conversation happening in the Accounting Apps Mastermind community. I'm your host, Heather Smith, and I'm pretty easy to find on all social media platforms. I look forward to connecting with you.